edge. So I just want to go through these last four videos just for a bit of a brief outline as to sort of what it's all about. So here we're talking about the war. This started from 1st of March 2026 with monthly updates. The latest oil price now is over $100. This is pre-war here, but what we're looking at is we're looking at relationships between oil supply, inflation, and financial markets, the effect that inflation has on financial markets. So typically, oil supply, we can sort of see here as oil supply goes up, the oil price particularly um, goes up as well because countries or companies want to produce more oil when the price of oil is higher and the demand for oil is higher. So that's just supply and demand. Um, with oil price and CPI, that's an important one because, and this is based on the consumer price index average for all countries globally here. Um, we can sort of see that when oil price goes up, so does inflation. So we're going to see that at pump. We're going to see that in in our grocery bill. We'll see that for insurance. In healthcare, all those particular sectors, because when the price of energy increases, even in your electricity and your rents and utility bills will increase because when there's a shortage, um, you know, prices increase. It gets passed on to the consumer and businesses. Business operating expenses increase. Unemployment can be a result of that as well. And then as a result of that, financial markets typically trend down in these particular sort of global energy shock crises. So if you want to hedge against the price of oil, um, typically as oil prices go down, the price of gold goes up. Um, and even just in conflicts, right? So we look here at conflicts like the Gulf War, GFC, all these particular where there's been sort of downturns. Turning to gold has always sort of been a smart hedge there, um, because there's a slightly inverse relationship between the price of oil and the price of gold. Oil price versus USD next. So this is the US currency. We can see this is important because people who are interested in the history of the US and the petrodollar, the Bretton Woods system that was the US in the old days post World War II, when the US dollar was backed by the gold standard until 1971, when Nixon took the US off the gold standard. Um, that is interesting, right? Like you have a bit of a look at that. And we saw, the USD price really fall a lot here in the 80s once it was sort of off the gold standard, because that was sort of previously here, 70s. We can sort of see here in the Gulf War, USD dropped as the oil price went up, so inverse relationship. And then over here, the USD went up when the oil price went down. Okay, and again here, um, the USD goes up here in 2001 as the oil price goes down again, sort of around that September 11 time. And then GFC, we saw a massive dip there in the oil price, but the USD went up. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. And as we saw a surge here in the average oil price, the US dollar price went down. So it's something to sort of just take into consideration there, be mindful of. Um, and then, global oil production revenue, we've seen massive sort of spikes here. 2008 was when it was at its highest peak, and then COVID again, or before COVID, sorry, 2014, before that crash here. COVID really took it down even further, and then it sort of peaked up here in the Ukraine war again in 22. Um, so, maybe that's ready for another drop there, sort of potentially. due to this particular conflict. So, if global oil production drops, oil prices go up, you would expect the USD price to go down as a result of that, based on this data. All right, so Iran war annual global crude oil supply shock model. Once again, guys, welcome. Anyone is welcome to sort of post their thoughts, comments, questions down below. I'm not saying this is 100% it, and I've got all the answers. This is just sort of what I'm seeing from the data and from my opinion based on what I've read. Always up for debate and for different perspectives. That's what drives a good panel. Okay, so over here, this is the global crude oil supply shock model. So, in this scenario, 95% loss across four different choke points here. You can see that's supply at risk. It's going through all the different choke points based on the 2018 global oil export data. That's the loss there. And then it's the flow, the annual flow based on calendar year and daily, daily supply, I guess, after once that's all averaged out. So that's sort of the average daily supply. That's what it is normally through these particular choke points. But if you account for these closures here, you can see down here that the new daily average oil supply is only 3.52 million barrels per day at a 95% closure, down from 70. So, quite significant losses there. If we want to have a look here at oil export volumes by country, we can really see who's getting hit the hardest here, and there's potential supply loss for at 95% closures for Saudi Arabia is quite significant on this particular page, followed by Russia and Iraq. US least affected by this. And then we go across here and we have a look at the crude oil production by key countries affected. We can see here that the US, based in 2024, their production revenue was, formed a lot of other nations there in terms of crude oil production. So they're the leader in crude oil production. They're based on oil production volume, based on our 2024 data. Okay, so, just out of these 6 countries here, they do roughly 3.36 trillion in revenue, or for 2024 calendar year. That's just based on, the USD average price for that year and the production volume. A lot of variations here. It depends how many barrels they sold at what particular price. When those market prices fluctuate, there's losses in production due to risk and natural disaster or accidents or whatever. So it's not 100%, but it's just a ballpark figure, I guess. And that's where we're at currently with the Iran-based analysis. If there's more that you would like to see, post your thoughts, comments, and questions down below. Cheers.